Huh? It's not what got abandoned, that's something else. What?
That he was wearing on the day he was.
Israel's censorship regime, DHS, has lists of Americans doing it. They surveil on the basis of their. Huh?
Killed. What appears to be a gun is also visible above his waistband.
I don't get it.
What's more likely is that they filmed his fucking face and they put him on a watch list. As Ken Klippenstein reports in his exclusive Sparta, Reaper, and Grapevine track.
Twitter's banned him for his comments on ICE tracking. Wait, do we even know this though? Do they even know what the thing is they got?
Protesters and their friends, plus others. ICE's secret watch list of Americans. We have a nice little data.
Okay, I really want to win. I need money for college. I need.
Avengers Endgame made one crucial mistake that I think hurt the movie and undermined the entire multiverse saga. Welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and I'm going to explain why Natasha's death was a mistake and who I think should have died in the movie. But first of all, you got to understand, I love Avengers Endgame. It's like my comfort movie. There is one scene that I think hurts this film and cripples the progress of the MCU going forward. In this video, I am going to get into a lot of really fun what-if scenarios, and that's to show you that I think there is a better story here with Natasha alive than if she dies. First, let's talk about the actual setup of her death. Like, I don't have to rehash the plot of the movie for you. You were there. You saw it. We saw it together. But do you remember that when they went out to get the Infinity Stones, they first spent a lot of time planning this out? They poured over every nuance of the MCU to determine the exact right time to nab each stone. And the stone on Vormir could only be won if you sacrifice the person you love. Now, I'm not the first guy to point this out, that it's a little weird that they happen to send out two people who love each other very much, and who start off very optimistic about their journey. So when they arrive, they're surprised to hear about this sacrifice.
In order to take the stone, you must lose that which you love.
But they shouldn't have been surprised, because Nebula would have known that there was a sacrifice involved. I mean, she worked this out in Infinity War.
He took her to Vormir. He came back with a soul stone.
Now, it is possible that Nebula withheld this information from them and manipulated events so the two people with the strongest bonds went to Vormir. And maybe that's a theory video all by itself. Nebula killed Black Widow. But I don't think this is where Nebula is at on her journey. She's already had her face turned in Guardians 2, and she's learning to work well with others. And if she did manipulate these two into sacrificing each other, then that should have been a plot point in the movie. Instead, I think the Avengers would have known about the sacrifice and worked out an alternate solution. They still would have sacrificed someone. But before I get into all those what-if scenarios, let's talk about how Natasha's death actually affected the plot of this movie. It didn't. Natasha's death did not affect the movie or improve it. Now, in fairness, you can argue that her death showed the audience that not every character was going to make it out alive. But we already knew that, right? I mean, half the universe died in the movie before, and I think we all assumed that some variation of Steve or Tony or really anybody could die in the movie. Now, in the first Avengers film, the heroes were discordant until Coulson died. Then his death gave them someone to avenge. But that's not really the case with Natasha's death. They're already avenging the people who were snapped away. And when everybody is snapped back, we don't actually get any reaction from the revived heroes. Nobody ever says, hey, wait, where's Natasha? Not even Okoye, who worked with her for several years. And that girls get a gun scene is kind of shallow, but it still sucks with the first female hero in the MCU is there with them. Now, I will say after her death, there is a brief moment where they're all like really sad. And then, that's it. Her death is overshadowed by Tony's big sacrifice. And she doesn't even get an on-screen funeral. Just Clint. That's bullshit. In any other movie, her death would be the point of the movie. But now, I want to talk about the aftermath of her death and how I think it derailed the MCU's multiverse saga. Hey guys. Hey. You good?
Yeah, just hanging out.
Cool. All right, so the thing about Avengers Endgame is that the movie is great, but it's also supposed to...
Hey, that's a nice watch.
Ah, thanks, buddy. It's called the Celtic Warden, and it's made of walnut and silver.
I wish I could get my wife something that special and unique.
Oh, you totally can, because this watch was made by Holzkern, my all-time favorite jewelry company and the sponsor of this video. Holzkern products are made in small batches, especially in their workshop in Vienna. And look, I also got this really cool necklace called Axis. It's also made from walnut. I had to take it off because it was making noise against the microphone. But also, you mentioned your wife. So check out this Campanilla ring made of koa and gold.
Well, she's a puppet, so no hands.
Oh, well then. Good news, there is the Balance bracelet made of walnut and rose gold.
Now we're talking.
Guys, Holzkern makes fantastic products that make for incredible gifts for yourself or for the holidays. These are unique pieces you just can't get from anywhere else. They're made from natural products like wood, leaf, or marble, plus many more. They also offer free worldwide shipping from Vienna. And if you're in the US, do not worry because they handle the custom fees for you. Your order shows up in 5 to 9 business days, no unexpected drama. And I want you to know, right now, they're having their biggest sale of the year. From November 17th to December 1st, you can get an exclusive 30% off by clicking my link below. So if you want to give a gift that's beautiful and unique and built to last that you cannot find anywhere else, you have to give Holzkern a try, and you will not regret it. Now, back to what I was saying. Look, I don't want to make another video complaining about the Multiverse Saga. I actually think the past few years have seen some of the best stuff that Marvel has ever made. Like Loki, Thunderbolt, Wakanda Forever. I think Multiverse of Madness is underrated. There's some real high water marks in the saga. However, the one decision they made that was people to lose interest was the lack of regular Avengers movies. As Marvel introduced more and more characters, we never got a sense of what this was leading to. In the Infinity Saga, the crossovers made MCU movies into events. And without them, everything seemed like homework. See, after the Avengers got together and saved the world in Endgame, there was no reason that the other heroes wouldn't keep getting together and keep this thing going. Obviously, there's value in teaming up. They just saved the universe, and yet they decided to disband. Now, here's where I want to get into a little bit of comics. The Avengers have split up in the comics. For instance, they were divided during Civil War, but also they split up during an event called Avengers Disassemble. In this run, the Scarlet Witch learns that she used to have twin sons, and just like in the MCU, losing them made her go insane. So the Avengers helped in the cover-up to erase her memory of them. But then, once she discovers the truth, she begins to subconsciously destroy the team. And afterwards, Steve and Tony kind of agree, yeah, we suck. We don't deserve to be Avengers, let's not get the team back together. So that is a good reason to not reform the Avengers. We never had something like that in the MCU. I guess on the other hand, there is a question of who would have formed a new team. Sam and Bucky were intimidated by Legacy. Bruce had to go to his island lab, I guess, went retired, and maybe Rhodey was a Skrull or something. But the answer is Natasha would have reformed the team. See, she never had a family until she found the Avengers. So, just for funsies, let's create an alternate Multiverse Saga where Natasha had lived. And I'll tell you why I think this makes for a much stronger story. Now, let's say Natasha lived, and a lot of members of her team are retired or dead. In fact, I'll go over who I think should have died in just a little bit. So first of all, Scarlett Johansson is a world-famous marquee star. And also, she could have been one of the new anchors to this franchise. The Black Widow movie should have been a continuation of the grounded side of the MCU, following the pattern set by Captain America the Winter Soldier. She should have been one of the actors to anchor the MCU, along with Tom Holland and Benedict Cumberbatch. But most importantly, I think there was a really interesting story to tell with her after the events of Endgame. The Black Widow movie was the second Marvel film released after Endgame, and it should have been there to signal a whole new era. But instead, it was a coda on the Multiverse Saga. It was a footnote. And look, I really like that movie, but even if it weren't for COVID, it never would have made big box office because people already knew how it ends. Natasha was dead. But had this exact movie taken place after Endgame, it would have been an exciting new direction for her. I mean, think about it. There was no reason this movie had to take place after Civil War. There wasn't a story about Natasha's life that we needed to explain how she went from being Captain America's loyal soldier to becoming Captain America's loyal soldier. Post-Endgame, that's a story where we would get to see Natasha really grieve and reflect. I think she would have done some major soul searching. Maybe she thinks the Avengers can't be reformed without her friends. Maybe she's thinking, I'm not so sure if I can go through this, rebuilding the compound, rebuilding the team. At least then we would have somebody mention early on that the Avengers aren't going to get back together, as opposed to the Multiverse Saga, which has ignored this point altogether. So Natasha, after losing so many people before and after the snap, would then look up her original spy. Then the Black Widow movie would pretty much play out like we saw, except now Natasha is actively trying to replace her found family with her original one. Now she has more of a reason to seek them out. On the one hand, they're trying to take down the Red Room, but on the other, she has no one else. Emotionally, she needs this family in her life. And following this movie, Natasha realizes the value of teamwork and decides to reform the Avengers. Then she would be the leader of the team, with a new Nick Fury figure popping up throughout post-credit scenes. And look, I know this is a heavy rewrite, and making the cinematic universe is more complicated than this, but hey, it's the multiverse saga, and I'm talking about some what-if scenarios. Now, I have two possible ideas for Avengers movies that could have culminated in Saga 4. The first is, obviously, Avengers Secret Invasion. Comics, this is a massive crossover event with multiple superheroes turning out to be Skrulls. The TV show is more of a teen spy thriller with bad visuals and wasted potential. But think about it. This is the perfect vehicle for a Natasha-led Avengers team. She's a spy going up against a race of spies. Her mentor, Nick Fury, covered up their existence. She's not sure she can trust him or anyone else. On top of that, there's no way to know who on her brand new team is a Skrull. Her old friends are gone, and what do we really know about this Shang-Chi or Shuri? Maybe her first time leading a team in a crisis could even be a failure because of the Hulk. Oh, how about that? Okay, so this is going back to who I think the Avengers would have chosen to sacrifice. When they were planning the time heist, it would have made sense to send Natasha with Bruce. The reason is they care about each other. Remember?
Another epic victory!
And the Avengers are under the belief that the Hulk is invulnerable. See, Bruce Banner fell off another high place in the Incredible Hulk, and the Hulk lived. He tried to swallow a bullet, but as he says,
the other guy spit it out.
Hell, even Bruce Banner fell out of a spaceship, didn't transform into the Hulk, and lived. So the Avengers would believe that the Hulk would be able to take the fall and survive. And this is where it gets interesting. Yes, the Hulk would take the fall, and the Hulk would live, but Bruce Banner would die. See, Natasha loved Bruce, not the Hulk. And so now we have this mindless hulking brute in the final battle in Endgame. This is something that always bothered me about Endgame. The Hulk doesn't ever get to do Hulk stuff. He's not smashing a single thing. Like, I appreciate that he's able to snap everybody back, but hell, Thor could have also done that. So we could have had Savage Hulk in the finale, and then Savage Hulk would be on Natasha's team. She would be able to guide and control him like we saw in Age of Ultron.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
But this would also address the complicated feelings that she and Bruce had for each other, you know, instead of completely ignoring them. Now, on paper, I think these two do make an interesting match. They've both done things they're not proud of. They're both haunted by their past. And Mark Ruffalo and Scarlett Johansson worked really well off each other in their Cal scene in Age of Ultron. And this last mission would have given them a chance to resolve that story, and Natasha could then mourn Bruce. So now, imagine we have Savage Hulk as an Avenger during a Secret Invasion movie. Think about how the Skrulls could mess with his mind. They could turn into Bruce Banner in front of him or other people from his past. They could have gotten the Hulk to go on a rampage, and suddenly Natasha's new team can't stop the alien invasion because they can't even stop themselves. So now we have Scarlett Johansson, a very bankable movie star who has been set up with redemption arcs in the saga. Now she has a true journey mapped out that can be a through line for Avengers Secret Wars. Or let me throw out another fun scenario for Avengers Part 5. Instead of Secret Invasion, do World War Hulk. So in the comics, this was the event that followed Planet Hulk. In the book, the Illuminati sent Bruce to space, where he became a gladiator turned king of another world. Then, after a bomb on the ship kills his wife, he returns to Earth with an army and wages war on all heroes to get revenge. So, let's imagine an alternate Avengers 5 that actually, finally, puts a focus on the Hulk and Hulk-centric storylines. I think the villain here is obvious. It should be the leader. He's not Brock Head. No, hear me out. The leader is an amazing character in the comics. He is one of the Hulk's greatest villains. But the movie Brave New World gave us a neutered version of him. He's a super genius who knows all probabilities, so let's face it, he's pretty easily defeated. So let's give him a real challenge. Let's have him manipulate world governments, free supervillains from prison. Let's have the leader form the Masters of Evil, manipulate characters like the Abomination, Baron Zemo, Justin Hammer, Adrian Toomes, Baron Mordo, Mysterio into coordinated attacks across the world. Let's kill off a hero early. Let's put Natasha in over her head so she feels lost and alone, trying to fill the shoes that were left by Trinity and Steve. And the whole time, she's also trying to control Savage Hulk. Maybe, I'm just saying here, he even asked his cousin, Jen Walters, to come and speak to the Hulk to try to see if there's anything left of Bruce in there. And then we can still somehow have the accident that gives Jen Bruce's blood, and so She-Hulk would be set up in an Avengers movie before spinning off into a return series. Maybe then the visual effects would be a little bit more polished. But I think the kicker of this should be that Natasha would have failed. She's unable to stop the leader's plan. Then Thunderbolt Ross steps in and is able to save the day. And this would movie similar to the ending of Secret Invasion. Norman Osborn kills the Skrull Queen and is made director of S.H.I.E.L.D. And this led into a terrific event called Dark Reign, where the villains controlled the world's government and super teams. The leader could also manipulate events so the Hulk would go on his rampage. He would kill tons of people to stabilize nations. So then, how would the world react to one of the Avengers becoming a villain? They would want somebody like Thunderbolt Ross to step in and create a new Avengers team, a safe Avengers team, controlled by the government. Natasha would then be squeezed out while the Avengers are restacked with unstable supervillains. This is similar to what happens in the comics. The crossover Secret Invasion ends with Norman Osborn killing the Skrull Queen. Then he's made director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and ushered in a great event called Dark Reign. During that event, the supervillains became the Avengers. So then, maybe Avengers 6 is similar to the Thunderbolts, but with actual villains and anti-heroes. And that's the important thing here. Natasha could fail as her first time being the leader of the Avengers. And then, we could have an arc that goes throughout the saga when Natasha's slowly trying to redeem her failure as leader of the team. Now look, I'm not saying these are like the best ideas for Avengers movies. I'm just having fun, spitballing ideas. But what I am saying is that if Natasha were alive, it could raise all these really interesting questions. I don't think her story was done being told, and she should have had a larger role in this universe going forward. And I'm not saying that characters should live forever. Sometimes a character outlives their usefulness in the story, and their death actually propels them forward. But Natasha's death didn't do anything for the story of this movie or this saga. I mean, it did create a compelling arc for Yelena Belova, so
That was really good.
but what do you guys think? Is Endgame a perfect movie, or should Natasha have lived? Do you think the Hulk should have become a savage monster? Do you think that we should have had more Avengers films? Let me know down in the comments below, or at me on Twitter, Blue Sky Threads, or our free-to-join Discord server. And don't forget, Volskern is having their biggest sale of the year, 30% off until December 1st. Click our link below to take advantage of this great opportunity. And if it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.
Only 60 seconds left.
Stay away from that Ankh if it starts to hover.
The Russo brothers set fire to the internet when they announced that those Avengers teasers weren't teasers at all. They were stories and clues. But now, we have paid attention, and we're going to break those clues down for you right now. Well, welcome back to Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that we might have missed in the 4 non-teasers, actually stories with clues for Avengers Doomsday. Now first, I will say that we did breakdowns of each of these teasers when they leaked online. We were excited, and we didn't want to wait for the digital release. And those breakdowns are pretty solid. I mean, as solid as they could be when you're just going off of like a blurry screen. But after watching all these trailers in high res, we have caught lots of new clues and details, including a huge one everyone else missed. Doctor Doom is in every single one of these trailers. Then when you throw them all in a row, it's pretty obvious that they are telling one cohesive story. Let me explain. Now, as we go through each of these trailers and break down the new details, you'll notice a pattern. They are all calling and responding to one another. The end of each trailer directly sets up the next trailer, and the countdown also has a huge clue that everyone missed. Now, my favorite theory about these trailers, that I think is 100% honest, comes from all you guys in the comments, and you said that they represent the cycle of life: birth, life, death, and the afterlife. And that makes perfect sense because the MCU is counting down to its doomsday. After Secret Wars, the universe is getting a soft reset and a new beginning. Remember, Loki Season 1 revealed that the MCU is on a kind of time loop. When He Who Remains dies, a multiversal war starts, and he still ends up in charge.
See you soon.
So keep this in mind, that everything, every single visual and sound in this trailer is there intentionally. So let's start breaking these trailers down, starting with the Steve Rogers intro. Now, of course, this trailer plays the Avengers theme on a single piano note. And notice it almost sounds like a lullaby, because as we'll see later, Steve is putting his son to sleep. But the notes are also so infrequent, they also kind of work like the chime of a clock.
You picked the right gal for the job, sugar.
So the first shot is of the camera slowly rising above the ground. So we're seeing this play out from above, almost like Steve is being watched by a higher power. Keep that in mind for later. But the really neat detail that we missed here is that we have this main gravel road and then a side road where somebody has driven through this field.
Where's the curb?
No, I mean, it could just be a farmer. I don't think it matters who it was. But I do think this tangent road is meant to signify the differing pathways of the timeline. Like when Steve went to the past, he caused a split in the time stream. That's the reality that we're watching right now. And then we go to the same house that we saw at the end of Endgame, where Steve and Peggy live in the DC suburbs. Here's the thing, though. That is not the same house where the motorcycle parks. The bike parks on a gravel road. And as we see in Endgame, Steve and Peggy's house is definitely on a small paved street. Now, at first, I got hung up on the colors of the helmet because they're red and gold. So I thought maybe this could actually be Tony driving the motorcycle. But this is definitely Steve Rogers' wedding ring that we saw at the end of Endgame, and it's not Tony's wedding ring, which is more round. Also notice that there is a gift on the bike with a pink bow. So we have Steve Rogers here arriving at a rural house with a gift with a pink bow. Could this actually be Tony Stark's house in Endgame? Is this from the past in the MCU timeline where maybe Steve showed up for Morgan's first birthday party, or to congratulate Tony and Pepper on having a daughter? And there's actually a fact to support this. One of our fans on Twitter, Street Kaluna, pointed out that the Triumph Scrambler from Avengers Doomsday teaser has an 865cc engine, which started manufacturing around 2008 to 2009, which means that this particular motorcycle could not be in the 1940s or 50s. It would be 50 or 60 years too late. I guess it's possible that Steve brought it from the future when he was time traveling, but come on. So this is not Steve Rogers pulling up to his house in the past. However, I will say this is Steve Chris Evans reflection in the window. I overlaid it and everything. Now, one of the things that could work really well about Tony Stark as Dr. Doom is this idea of what would have happened to my life with one small change. I'll give you an example. One of the reasons I can do this job is because I got a college degree in media studies. But for a while, it looked like I might have to drop out. Lucky for me, I was able to take classes online where I learned the skills that made me who I am today. And I think that some of you might be at a crossroads like this, or you feel locked into a career path that just isn't right for you. But there is a way out. If you want to get your degree and go down the right path, try Southern New Hampshire University, the sponsor of this video. SNHU is one of the largest online accredited universities in the United States, and they have some of the most affordable tuition rates in the country. This is a great way to gain real-world experience to help yourself stand out to future employers. SNHU's programs are extremely flexible with no set class times, so you can work when it works for you. And you can also transfer up to 90 academic, military, or experiential credits to save time. Southern New Hampshire University believes that education is a basic human right, and that education is the best tool that we have to fix the inequity in the world. They want to transform your life with the power of education. Take it from me, I have my dream job, so it's never too late to pursue something you love. This is your time to start. So go to snu.edu/ScreenCrush to explore more than 200 programs and find your path forward. Now back to what I was saying. Now next we see Steve putting away his old uniform, and I did some research, and this is actually a World War II era soldier's footlocker. So symbolically, Steve is taking his Endgame suit and placing it in this trunk because his war is over. So we've theorized that this could mean that when Steve arrived in this new reality, he didn't stop being Captain America right away. He fixed all of the problems, freed Bucky from mind control, stopped Hydra, and then retired to have a family. And this would have further split this time stream away from the main MCU, which further implies that Steve caused an incursion that could have actually created the reality that Dr. Doom is from. Now, when Steve is holding his son, judging by the blue onesie in the cover's background, I think it's a boy, he's got a towel on his shoulder for spit up, and he's wearing a red sweater, which is very similar to another wholesome man named Rogers, Mr. Fred Rogers. And then this light shines above him like a divine light in a Renaissance painting, showing how this child has become Steve's entire world. Now, that light's going to be important for later. So then we go to the countdown, which probably looks familiar to you guys, but we'll go on to that later. So then we go straight from the image of Steve being a father to hearing Thor pray. And this is what I mean. When you watch these trailers together, they tell a story. The first trailer establishes this theme of fatherhood and how being a parent creates this divine joy in your life, like the light above Steve's head. So the Thor trailer begins with us looking up at the heavens while Thor is praying to his father. And notice the overhead light in Steve's trailer is placed in the exact same position as the sun in Thor's trailer. So we start by hearing the sound of nature. And this is fitting because the Norse Vikings did not build great stone temples for their gods like the Romans did. The Norse religion was often practiced in nature. Vikings would land on the shores and create shrines to Odin under an open sky. And this shot to the skies is another important nod to Doom that we'll talk about later in the video. So Thor tells us,
I have answered every call to honor, duty, to war.
And then we see Thor tending to his adopted daughter, Love. Now, Colton Ogburn, the guy who's trapped in our TV but doesn't know it, so please don't tell him, had a great theory about this. love is actually dying. Well, love was resurrected with the power of eternity. That's the living embodiment of the universe. And the universe could be dying because of incursions. Remember, an incursion is when two universes are about to collide, so you have to destroy one universe to save the other. We have seen what incursions look like. Multiverse of Madness, What If, Loki. It's when reality starts to slowly unravel. And, you know, this slow unravel of reality could have even started in outer space, which could be the space crisis that Yelena mentioned.
And now there's a true space crisis and no one's telling us about it.
So all of this means that we could have a situation like Arwen in Lord of the Rings, where her life essence is tied to Middle-earth, and love is tied to eternity, aka the embodiment of this universe. So love is dying because the universe is dying. The only way Thor can save love is by defeating Dr. Doom. And there's a key line here in this prayer.
And return home to her.
Now, we have been theorizing in just about every video that Doom is collecting superpowered kids. Why would Thor say he wants to return to her instead of saying, I want to save her or find her? I think that Thor is trying to save her life. Or at the very least, he's asking for his life to be spared because now he's in a position to be responsible for someone else. See, in every movie, Thor has never been worried about his own life. He rushes headfirst into battle, usually recklessly, even channeling the power of a sun without blinking an eye or thinking of consequences. But now, he wants to make it home for his daughter. Now, the score is also telling a story. The music picks up right where Steve's trailer left off, playing the Avengers theme on piano.
Untouched by the sun.
But as soon as he mentions the Allfather, this happens. Thunder enters the soundscape like we're sonically hearing all of the past rulers of Asgard coming to aid Thor in answering his prayers. Afterwards, more instruments enter the theme to accompany the piano.
To teach her not battle, but stillness.
So the first trailer was about birth, a new beginning, and this trailer is about living life. And the one defining aspect over life, you know, instead of nothingness, is that life is always threatened by death. Nothingness simply is. It is perpetual. But the very act of living means that your time is finite, and this means that we will always be forced to grow and change. So this trailer is about Thor realizing that his time could finally be running out. He's a little more time before he dies so he can be with his daughter. The trailer is about Thor's fear of death. And he ends the trailer with, then in the next trailer, Magneto gives an answer to his prayers.
Death comes for us all.
See, they're telling a story. You guys, you just gotta watch them together in front of us the whole time. So let's break down the X-Men trailer again with all these fun new details. But first, I want to remind you that we do have so much sweet Doom and X-Men merch at our merch store. Of course, we have our return series. 11 will return in Doomsday, your mom will return in Doomsday, and Palpatine will return in Doomsday. That's my favorite. We've also got hot classics like Tony creating Ultron on the Sistine Chapel ceiling. And on the X-Men side of things, this classic Remember It shirt is a tribute to Gambit, the Nighthawk's Diner with X-Men characters, Beast in the Fraser font, and I'm about to make a name for myself. Links for all of these are on our merch shelf below. Thank you guys for shopping with us. Now back to the trailer. It is important that we go from Thor asking for the ability to protect his kid to a building that was built to protect kids. But it looks like we're seeing like the last days of the X-Men. This is the only trailer that does not feature the Avengers theme. Instead, it is a reworking of the score from X-Men 2000. But frankly, one of the weakest points of the movie compared to this. So throughout this trailer, the camera does fly through the mansion at a low angle, almost like we are walking through the mansion, or we are seeing the point of view of someone else who is observing these events. By the way, shout out to the channel New Media Rockstars who noted this window in the back with the Xavier family crest, which could have been a model for the X-Men logo, note this on yellow. Now the Latin here reads, Fiat Lux, Fiat Vis, which translates to let there be light, let there be strength. Now what's interesting is this motto's never really appeared in the X-Men before. I mean, I couldn't find anything online, and I sure as hell don't remember from the comics. Now, this could be the Xavier family motto, but it does not seem that appropriate to the X-Men, right? So here's my theory. This motto is indicating that Magneto has joined the school with Charles, and the two of them are running the program together. Let there be light refers to Charles' dream of humans and mutants coexisting, but let there be strength refers to Magneto's view of the world. The peace can only be achieved if the humans respect the power of mutant kind. It would make sense if these two have put their differences behind them, as they are now facing the literal end of their world. And as I said earlier, this trailer deals with death. Specifically, Magneto telling us that
death comes for us all.
and this is narrated over the wreckage of the X-Mansion. The sign for the School of Gifted Youngsters, noting the comic-accurate address of 1407 Great Malkin Lane, is on the ground. And by the way, this is the same plaque that appeared in the original X-Men films. And note that in this wide shot of the library, we see that shelves have been knocked over, and there are lights shining over to the left. Now, this is reminiscent of when Stryker and his men invaded the mansion in X2 and X-Men Apocalypse. We also see broken busts on the ground, and when Xavier is moving his chair, we see small fires burning in the background. Now, this is obviously after some kind of fight, but not the apocalyptic fight at the end of the trailer. More on that one in a second. So the chair is obviously the original model from the 2000s films, and not the yellow hover chair from the animated series, X-Men 97 and Multiverse of Madness. And this implies that this is the same X-Men universe where Monica Rambeau landed at the end of the Marvels, where Kelsey Grammer's Beast was in a bunker, just like the layer we see in the original film. And notice that the lights of the mansion are blinking on and off, like something has damaged the electric current or the generators have gone to low power. The camera continues to move through the mansion as we get the feeling that Doom is approaching this universe. Now, this staircase in the foyer might look familiar. It's where the Lebowski version of Xavier told Logan to leave him alone.
I'm gonna have to ask him to ask you to leave.
And Logan actually walked down into this foyer in Days of Future Past from the same double staircase where the camera now rests. Now, back to Charles rolling across these fires. I think this could be after a fight breaks out in the mansion between, say, the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. Both Alan Cumming and Kelsey Grammer confirmed that they have worked with Pedro Pascal on this film. So maybe the two teams meet, start a fight, and then Xavier uses his telepathy to freeze everybody, then rolling on in to help everybody work out their differences. And then after the Fantastic Four explain the situation, the multiverse is dying, back to be when Xavier and Magneto retreat to this window to talk about the impending death of their universe. And then we see these two old friends playing chess just like they have in several X-Men movies. Magneto uses his powers to raise them as Howard Black King. Now in their games, Charles always played white and Magneto was black. But lifting the king implies that he's just been put in check or checkmated and he is about to lay down his piece. And that would surely match the tone of what he's saying, that he has accepted his mortality.
Who will you be when you close your eyes?
Now, Xavier is wearing a comic-accurate blue jacket with a red X-Men patch, matching the 1990s Jim Lee designs from the animated series. But Magneto looks retired. He's out of uniform and wearing a sweater. Out of sweater. Now, as we've talked about on our live streams, it would be interesting to know the context of what they're talking about. Incursions are destroying the multiverse, and they have a trolley problem. Destroy your universe so another could live. And maybe Xavier is having a crisis of conscience here. Maybe he is thinking about destroying another reality. But then, in a reversal, Magneto is the one who's telling him, you have to decide what kind of person you want to be. In other words,
Who will you be when you close your eyes?
and this takes us to Cyclops, my favorite X-Man, finally opening his eyes. Cyclops is a character who is always defined by his need for restraint. He always has to bottle up his emotions. I mean, they say that the eyes are the windows of the soul, but he has to keep his eyes away from the rest of the world to protect the people he loves. He's always been perceived as an uptight prick because he has to be an uptight prick. He has to protect the other members of the team or else people can die. So this ending shows him finally unleashing his concussion blast. Although we don't know who he's shooting. Would it be Dr. Doom? I mean, maybe. It's telling that he's shooting upwards because each of these trailers indicates that a higher power is watching them from above. I should also note that him shooting his blast upwards is imitating the intro from the X-Men animated series. Now, we've already noted these Sentinel legs in the background and how this might be a Sentinel head, but I'm also wondering, is this a fake out? Well, we briefly got a look at the classic Sentinels in X-Men 3, but they turned out to just be a danger room simulation, so this scene could be a nod to that. But look, I doubt it, because the most important thing about the X-Men here is they've always been unique among the other Marvel heroes for an important reason. Their existence is finite. Well, unlike Spider-Man, Batman, or Superman, the X-Men are actively fighting against their own extinction, and they have faced multiple futures where their entire race is wiped out. So it's appropriate that their trailer is themed to be about death, because it's always been a story where everyone is under constant threat of annihilation. And not for nothing, this entire universe is going to be annihilated. They're going to stop making movies to take place in this timeline, and the X-Men are going to start fresh in the MCU. So the last line of the trailer, again, is,
Who will you be when you close your eyes?
and then boom, we go to the next trailer where it starts on black and then goes down. Again, it's like we're seeing the events from the POV of a higher power. And this trailer likely represents the afterlife. Now, of course, the afterlife is one of the first things we learned about Wakandan culture.
In my culture, death, it's not the end. It's more of a
Stepping off point.
And of course, in the Black Panther movies, we see this afterlife like 3 times when people drink from the heart-shaped herb and then they go speak to their ancestors or family members. Now notice how the music starts, almost like we're going to hear that same Avengers leitmotif on the piano. But then, as the camera tilts down, the score suddenly sinks. So when the trailer leaked, we had multiple theories on what this desert could be. We thought maybe it was outside of Wakanda, or maybe even the desert where Shuri fights Namor. But now, I just 1,000,000% think that this is the void at the end of time and space. In the show Loki and in Deadpool and Wolverine, this is like a dumping ground where the TVA sends unwanted objects or people, and they are eventually devoured by a giant cowboy. Channing Tatum's Gambit was in this reality, and he is confirmed to return for this movie. There was even a deleted scene in the movie that showed him escaping. So I think that this realm is where they're going to encounter Channing Tatum's Gambit. Now, there's other reasons I think this is a void that I'll get into in just a second. Shuri says,
I've lost everyone that matters to me.
and then the drums of Wakanda kick in. And this is signaling how this trailer is transitioning us away from the Avengers world and into the world of Wakanda. Now, several people have pointed out that Shuri's suit has these bits of aqua blue, which are the vibranium of Talokan. This can imply that the 2 nations have formed an alliance and are working together, or just that she used some of their tech to repair her suit. And she tells us,
The king has his duties to prepare our people for the afterlife. I have mine.
And in the comics, the Black Panther has a special spiritual connection to the afterlife and the Wakandan people. The Black Panthers are the avatar of Bast, which is why they are also called the Kings of the Dead. When Wakandans die, they're said to travel to the realm of Bast, which is why Wakandans believe that death is merely a stepping off point. And not for nothing, but the god of Bast did appear in Thor: Love and Thunder right here. So I believe that the void is a kind of symbolic afterlife. After you're pruned, this is where you go. I mean, the camera even tilts down the opening shot, implying that we are looking at the underworld. And this is also a perfect mirror to the beginning of this story when we met Steve Rogers and the camera was rising. And as Shuri talks about loss, she recedes into the desert out of focus, which in film usually implies that someone's story is ending as they walk off into the sunset, or they don't become visible anymore, and it means that their story is ending. So this looks like the same Mesoamerican architecture of the city of Talokan, and the temple in the back is definitely a temple from Talokan. Now, the temple being in the desert could mean a few things. Like Doom could have pruned them. He could prune the entire temple. He could have drained the oceans on Earth. Or maybe this is some alternate Earth where the oceans were destroyed. Now, obviously, this means that time is limited for Namor's people. Their breathing masks are finite. They are not meant to last forever, so the clock is ticking for them. In fact, that's a common theme across all the trailers. Time is running out as we're literally counting down to Doomsday. Personally, I think that this pruning is the most likely cause. In our video last Friday, we talked about how Doom could have wanted to strip mine the vibranium of Wakanda to build his own device to restructure the multiverse. And that castle at the end of time could be Doom's new citadel. Now, if this is the case, it would make sense for Shuri and the Wakandans to venture here. After all, the Void is just a stepping stone away from reaching Doom's palace. So what I'm saying is that Shuri and the Wakandans may not have actually been pruned to travel here. Shuri might have built a device or captured a device that can transport their ship to the Void. And then we get our first crossover team, Ben Grimm meeting the Wakandans. Now, if the Fantastic Four are here, this makes me think that they also found their way to the Void by using a multiversal traveling device invented by Reed Richards, or maybe Doom is just going around pruning people. Now the big question here is, who is she saluting at the end? It looks like she is returning a favor, but M'Baku is already boarding the ship. So she could be saluting Nakia. If it's the afterlife, she could be saluting her mother, or even a variant of T'Challa. Or maybe her young nephew is sent here already, and he's aged up into a grown man. Fact is, I just don't know. I'm curious where you go. And then we go to the countdown clock. And this is where I think Dr. Doom is hiding in all of these trailers. Take a look at the A, or obviously what's behind it. It's a window. And does the architecture look familiar? It's very similar to the window in the Palace of He Who Remains at the end of Loki. Except for He Who Remains, his window is circular, representing the single looping sacred timeline and the time loop of the MCU that we talked about earlier. But now, that's no longer the case. Instead, outside we know there's a great multiversal tree that was sacrificed by Loki. The window's new panes are vertical, and instead of showing the purple sacred timeline outside, we see Loki's green tree. See, I think that Doom, very early in the movie, takes over the TVA. It might even be the first scene. That'd be pretty fun, watching Dr. Doom go to the TVA and take everybody out. And from there, he dethrones Loki and rebuilds the Citadel at the end of time and space. And so now, all of these trailers are actually Dr. Doom watching these people. And he is watching them from afar, from above. Which is why our first views of Steve Steve and Thor are caught from above, like a greater power is looking down on them. It's also why we have this first-person POV in the X-Men trailer, and it's why the Wakandan trailer opens with a tilt downward. All of these events are being observed by Doom through the window of his new headquarters. And there's one object that connects every single trailer. They all feature a window. It's one of the few visuals we see occur in every single one of these videos, because a window represents Doom watching these events through his window as they occur. But do you guys think that's a reach? Are there any details we missed? Let me know in the comments below, or you can find me on Substack, and a subscription there would be really nice. Thank you so much. Or you can find us on our free-to-join Discord server. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy. I don't think the X-Men are going to be just a cameo in Avengers Doomsday. I think the mutants are going to be a main focus because the X-Men actually caused the multiversal crisis in the first place. Welcome back to Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy, and after the newest trailer for Avengers Doomsday revealed the X-Men in the movie, I think it's clear that not only is this entire thing the X-Men's fault, but I'm also going to explain why the Fox X-Men universe is actually the original primary timeline of the MCU and everything else is just a branching reality. And of course, we're going to talk about how this sets up Avengers Doomsday and the universe consolidation that will eventually lead to the mutant saga in the MCU. Now, details are still sketchy on the plot of Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. We know that, like, obviously Doctor Doom is the antagonist, the movie has a huge cast, and presumably Secret Wars will be based on the 2015 Secret Wars comic. But what we don't know for sure is why Doctor Doom is the antagonist. Like, what caused Tony Stark to break bad? We do know the problem will likely center on Tony Stark, aka Doctor Doom, trying to stabilize the ever-branching multiverse into something orderly that can be controlled.
I see a suit of armor around multiverse.
See, Tony is somebody who values systems that function properly. In the multiverse, total freaking mess. In the show Loki, we saw Loki make the decision to preside over these infinite branching timelines, creating a huge multiversal tree. So this means that there are infinite possibilities for more chaos and destruction. And the multiverse saga has been full of chaos and destruction. We've seen entire realities threatened by a single individual. Spider-Man, Kang, Doctor Strange again, and of course, Doctor Strange, not to mention this other Doctor Strange. But the big threat in Doomsday is probably going to be incursions. In the comics, incursions happen when two universes are about to collide. If you destroy one of the Earths in that universe, then both universes survive. And if you do nothing, then two universes will die. So in Doomsday, we think that Doom is going to be snuffing out bothersome universes that have created incursions. More importantly, he's going to try and reshape reality, and that is why the X-Men universe is so important. And I think that this is the original Prime universe in which the X-Men have caused all of these other realities to branch and cause problems.
I know. Stay with us.
So first, let's explain why we think the X-Men universe is the Prime universe and what that means for the plot of Doomsday, and why this might just reveal who Sadie Sink is playing in Spider-Man Brand New Day. The main reason I feel like the X-Men should be the Prime universe is because Marvel Studios overlord Kevin Feige has a major soft spot for this franchise. His introduction to Marvel was working as an associate producer on the first X-Men movie. This is when he first read and fell in love with Marvel Comics, and suddenly he was the comic advocate on set. For instance, encouraging hair and makeup to make Hugh Jackman's hair bigger and bigger. Kevin Feige's gig on X-Men led him to becoming Avi Arad's second in command at Marvel Studios, which of course led to him becoming president and spearheading the MCU as we know it today. He owes his career to these characters. So when Disney bought Fox, Kevin Feige could have decided to just scrap that old universe and instead slowly incorporate the characters into the existing MCU. But instead, they devised the multiverse saga as a way to say goodbye to those original Universal films. But sentimentality aside, when you look at the actual story of the X-Men universe, we can see that these guys have been screwing with timelines since the mid-1990s.
Is that a customer? Someone to free us from abject poverty?
Even better, Doug, it is a present for me. Here we go. Guys, look, this is the Dubai Cake Explosion Gift Bundle from Syndicate. They're the sponsor of this video. I love Syndicate. They're one of my favorite sponsors that we work with on this channel because these make for perfect gifts, like especially for me and Doug. You know, we work in this store. We're away from our families in this void of nothingness at the end of time and space. So when I buy a gift for my loved ones, I want it to be special. So you saw that this one has paper butterflies and these caramels that rain down when you open the box.
Like arrows on the heads of our enemies.
And it also comes with this delicious mini Dubai chocolate pistachio pistachio cream cake, and, oh, I love this, my favorite part, get this, Doug, it is customizable with a photo option. See? That's you. Oh, why, thank you. And we also have this billionaire birthday box.
You look like you are in a musical video.
So, as you can see, this one comes with an automated money shooter that I've actually used in several videos in the past, and it also has a delicious mini cake. Syndicate ships to all 50 states, and it's a thoughtful, hassle-free gift for any occasion. Birthdays, anniversaries, retirements, and more. And if you use our link below in the code CRUSH10, you will get 10% off your order today. You won't regret it, just make it for an awesome gift. Now, back to what I was saying. So let me explain what I mean when I say the X-Men are the main timeline. Now, I don't want to get bogged down in what's a timeline and what's a universe, because frankly, like, Marvel's done a really piss-poor job explaining all that anyways. So for simplicity's sake, let's just say the X-Men universe is like the limb of a tree, and everything we've ever seen happen in a Marvel movie is a branch off that limb. For starters, the earliest event in any of these universes is the prologue at the beginning of X-Men Apocalypse in 3600 BC. Now, technically, the Eternals prologue is further back in 5000 BC, but in just a little bit, I'll explain why the Eternals are also part of a branching timeline. Don't worry about it. We'll get there. Now, when we meet Apocalypse, he is in the middle of a mind transfer, and this is when he transfers his mind into a younger mutant body, and in doing so, absorbs their powers. I should note, this is not a power he has in the comics, and it's not his mutant ability. The movie never does explain how he does this, so I'm going to assume that it's magic. Remember, this is exactly what we see Baron Mordo doing at the end of Doctor Strange, absorbing the magic and abilities of other sorcerers. In the comics, Apocalypse is a practiced sorcerer, so we are now establishing that magic does exist in the Fox X-Men universe, which means that a universe with magic could then branch off of this timeline. And there's another big difference in the ancient world of the Fox universe and the MCU. In the MCU, of course, aliens visited Earth in the past and the humans called them gods. So technically this could have happened in the Fox universe. After all, we can assume that the myths about Thor and Hercules exist in the same universe as the X-Men. But I think the difference could be that in the X-Men movies, the presence of super-powered individuals on the planet, mutants, means that fewer alien races interfered with the world over the centuries, and thus, Odin never stored the Tesseract on Earth.
Wait, I'm confused. Why did all these timeline branches split off and stuff?
Okay, now we're getting to the fun part. So let's talk about why the universe is split off and why the X-Men are responsible. First, we know that time traveling creates a new universe. This is what the Avengers do in Avengers Endgame. So the way the Hulk explains it is kind of complicated.
If you travel to the past, that past becomes your future, and your former present becomes the past.
Basically, when they travel back in time, their actions are created a branching timeline. And in the X-Men universe, characters time travel a lot. So let's start with X-Men Days of Future Past. In that movie, Kitty Pryde has the ability to send someone's mind into the past. And this is just another form of dreamwalking.
Now do say right now?
So in Multiverse of Madness, we see that you can use the Darkhold to send your mind into the body of yourself in another dimension. Exactly what Kitty does for Logan in this movie. So dreamwalking, in a way, causes a branching reality, and in Multiverse of Madness, we learn that dreamwalking also causes incursions, and dreamwalking can destroy an entire universe. And actually, this is true pretty much anytime somebody travels to another dimension or creates a branching timeline. They almost always end up destroying another universe because they are creating an infinite amount of chances that something will go wrong and an incursion will occur. So, in Days of Future Past, in the far-off future year of 2023, Earth is a dystopian hellscape. So the X-Men send Logan into the past to fix it, and then the movie ends with him in the middle of a super mega happy ending. Jean and everybody else in the school are alive. But Logan remembers everything from the old timeline because he is a Nexus being. Remember, a Nexus being is the person who interferes with the natural flow of time and creates a new universe. Similar to when Loki stole the Tesseract in Avengers Endgame. He was the Nexus being for a new reality. So Logan is the sole reason this new universe exists. And because of that, when he dies in the movie Logan, it causes this branch to erode, like we heard about in Deadpool and Wolverine.
An anchor being is an entity of such vital importance that when they die, their whole world slowly withers out of existence.
So that's what that means.
Exactly. So that's just the chaos caused by one time-traveling incursion. So I want to quickly address like retrocausality here because it's important. So retrocausality is like the Back to the Future rule of time travel. That when you travel to the past, it affects the present. That's not how time travel works in the Marvel movies. Instead, when you time travel, you create a branching reality. But the characters think that's how time travel works. See, Logan changes the past and he thinks he wakes up in a new future, but instead, he's actually waking up in a whole new timeline. His old, shitty timeline continued on without him. But think about this. Do you think that this was the only time in the multiverse that the X-Men ever attempted time travel? Hell, in Deadpool 2, we learned that in Cable's future, 2070, time travel is a technology that anybody can use at any time. Like Cable uses it to change the past, and I'm pretty sure it's been used many other times to create more and more branching timelines. So logically, there are two options here. There is either a timeline like the MCU that originally did not include mutants, but then realities with mutants branched off of that timeline, or the original timeline was the Fox X-Men universe that included mutants, and the MCU was then a branch off of that mutant timeline. I think that's far more likely that the Fox X-Men universe is the original timeline because mutants began appearing earlier in the timeline with the rise of Apocalypse. So mutant kind really are the norm, and universes without the X-Men are the aberration. And if this seems too convoluted to be true, I'll prove it to you. Let's run through the bare minimum of timelines we see in the X-Men franchise. There's the Dystopia 2023, the Mega Happy 2023, and the events of Logan. There's the timeline where Vanessa died, and then the one where Wade saves her. There's the future where Cable's daughter died, and then the one where Russell became a good guy and Cable's daughter lived. There's the one where Wade saves Peter.
Away! Just walk away!
And he also kills the original Deadpool.
Hey, it's me. Don't scratch.
And right there, that should tell you that this is a branching timeline. The Wade Wilson in the X-Men Origins Wolverine movie was a young man with his abilities in the 1970s. But in the Deadpool movies, he doesn't get powers till the 2010s. Wade also travels to a totally different universe to kill Ryan Reynolds, and he might kill baby Hitler. But, and this is important, if he would have killed this baby, then this totally changes Magneto's life and the story of the X-Men movies. The prologue of the X-Men then doesn't happen, Eric is not raised in a death camp, and Shaw does not become a threat, causing Xavier and Magneto to meet. So, this is also clearly a separate universe from the rest of the Fox X-Men films. This is because Wade is creating branching realities every time he time travels.
We're definitely naming our kids Share!
But even more importantly, there's the time travel in X-Men the Animated Series. In the episode Remember It, we see the Watcher in the Sky, which canonizes this show as part of the same Marvel multiverse. And both the animated series and X-Men 97 feature a lot of time travel. In X-Men 97, Cable tries to stop the massacre in Genosha, but this is likely trying to reverse what the ancient one called an absolute point in time.
Her death is an absolute point in time, unchangeable, unmovable.
Or as they call them in the Spider-Verse movies, canon events.
Canon events are the connections that bind our lives together.
In both the movies and the show, we see that reversing canon events can cause an incursion, that is, the destruction of an entire universe. So in the original X-Men show, there are several arcs where characters travel back in time to fix the future. There's Days of Future Past, to stop the assassination of Senator Kelly. There's also the excellent two-parter One Man's Worth, where we see an alternate future where Xavier was assassinated. There's Time Fugitives, where Cable travels back in time to visit Bishop from ending the Mutant Plague. But most importantly, there's the epic four-parter Beyond Good and Evil. In this arc, Apocalypse gathers psychics at the Axis of Time, a place between all realities and time where we're introduced to Bender. But it turns out that Bender is actually a Mortis, and that is another identity of Kang the Conqueror, proving that Kang also exists in this universe. In fact, this could be the original Kang, and this fortress of the Axis of Time could later be remade into the Citadel at the end of times we saw in Logan. After all, that fortress was fused together from some kind of existing structure, as noted by the Kinsuki lines here. So those are just the multiversal branches that we actually know about from various movies and shows. But what about all of the other times that people interfered that we never saw on screen? I think that these are the time travel trips that actually created the MCU as we know it. But before we get into the timeline split, I want to remind you guys that we have some great new stuff for sale at our merch store. We have classic Doom parody merch like the I Hate You 3000, my favorite, the Doomsday Celebration at Latveria Castle, and Tony Stark granting life to Ultron. There's also great X-Men merch like the Remember It, Tribute to Gambit, LFG, and many more. We're always designing new merch for you guys, and if you go to our store, you can become a member to earn rewards and get free stuff. Links are below. So now, let me address the Eternals. In that movie, we learned that the Celestials had impregnated Earth with a baby baby, and then they send the Eternals to guard that baby from outside threats. The same thing actually happens in the Earth X comics, except the Celestials also experimented on humanity and then gave them a special gene that allowed them to develop superpowers. This is called the Celestial gene, and it is why mutants exist in the comics. Basically, so superpowered people can become like antibodies to defend the Celestial baby from being destroyed by Galactus or other threats. So, in the MCU, let's say that some future time traveler wanted to get rid of mutant kind. They would travel back millions of years and kill off all of the early humans who had that Celestial gene. Boom, no more mutants. But this would mean that the Celestials would have to devise another way to protect the planet, then send in the Eternals to fight the Deviants. This would also mean that the gods, like Odin, would then take a greater hand in the events on Earth, and they would leave the Tesseract behind in Norway, and of course that one event is the catalyst for most of the MCU's history. How did I know? Well, the Tesseract led to Hydra's rise, and there's a great theory that Howard Stark used the energy of the Tesseract to create his initial arc reactor, which Tony later miniaturized and used to become Iron Man. Without the Tesseract, there is no Loki invasion of Earth, no Captain Marvel, and Earth largely gets left alone by extraterrestrial forces, which would explain why, in the main Fox X-Men timeline, we don't see those events occur. Hell, it could even be that there was a Red Skull and Hydra in the main X-Men timeline, but we never see them because Sebastian Shaw and other mutants took care of them. But it's also important to remember that there are timelines where mutant characters do coexist with the MCU heroes. For instance, Xavier is in Universe 838 in Multiverse of Madness, and numerous superheroes cameo in the X-Men cartoon. There's even entire episodes devoted to crossing over with Spider-Man and Captain America. And there's also mutants in the main MCU 616 universe. Remember?
Kamala, there's something different.
Judge! I have reason. Executioner!
So, universes with mutants are the norm, and universes without mutants are therefore an aberration. So I think this means that the Fox universe is the main timeline. Which means that all of these problems that we're seeing were initially caused by the X-Men. And that brings us to Avengers Doomsday, the Phoenix, and Sadie Sink's mystery character in Spider-Man Brand New Day. So, in the past few videos we've made, we've talked a lot about how Doom wants the kids. The first teaser introduced Steve Rogers' baby, a baby that is born from the people of two universes, the original Steve Rogers and a variant of Peggy Carter. The next teaser centered on Thor being separated from his daughter, Love. And remember, Love also has godlike powers given to her by Eternity. And we've already seen Dr. Doom showing his face to Franklin Richards in Fantastic Four First Steps. That kid is so powerful that Galactus thought he could take over his job.
You don't need a family, kid. You got a job here.
Now, a couple weeks ago, our own Colton Ogburn wrote a great video about how the X-Men could figure into all of this. Doom could be after Rachel Summers. Who's that? So in the comics, Rachel Summers is the daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey from an alternate future. In addition to being an incredibly powerful telepath and telekinetic, she is also host of the Phoenix Force. Alright, so there have been a couple movies about the Phoenix that suck, but the Phoenix Force is at the center of one of the greatest X-Men stories of all time, the Dark Phoenix Saga. The Phoenix is a cosmic entity that represents destruction and rebirth. Like, it can eliminate entire star systems in seconds. It attaches itself to a host, Jean Grey, and drives her insane. Now, the Phoenix has also gone on to basically be hosted by every other character in Marvel Comics. Now, in X-Men 3, they call the Phoenix just another personality inside of Jean. But in the alternate timeline prequel, X-Men Dark Phoenix, we see that it is an actual cosmic force that attaches to her. So I think that in Doomsday, Jean will be dead because Famke Janssen has said she's not in the movie. But the Phoenix Force is attached to her and Scott's daughter, Rachel. Doom takes Rachel, which is why Scott is so pissed off in the trailer. We even see the legs of a Sentinel in the trailer, which, as we theorize, could actually be a member of Doom's Iron Legion. Or Tony Stark hacked the Sentinels and ordered them to wipe out the mutants and take Cyclops' daughter.
Why does Doom need the kids?
Well, again, we covered this in another video.
I don't always pay attention.
That's okay. So basically, if Doom's ultimate goal is to reshape the multiverse into something singular and cohesive, then he needs the abilities of all these kids to create his new world. Kind of like Vecna in Stranger Things 5. But also, I wonder if the Phoenix Force is the key to all of this. See, what if the Phoenix was the original multiverse cleaner? Maybe this cosmic entity existed in part to destroy and fend off any encroaching reality that would threaten the main universe. So then Doom could use its power to burn away the multiversal tree, and then use the power of Love and Franklin to create his new universe.
Why is he even about it?
Well, Doctor Doom's all about magic, and every evil sorcerer has to sacrifice an infant to make their evil plans happen. So that could be why he needs Steve Rogers' son. And this brings us to Sadie Sink. Now, the marketing team for Spider-Man Brand New Day has really kept her identity tightly under wraps, but there are rumors she will have mind control powers and the Department of Damage Control is after her. This would lead to the idea that she is a mutant, and that in the Mutant Saga, the Department of Damage Control will be charged with finding and jailing dangerous mutants. Now, the smart money is that she is playing young Jean Grey, and that she will anchor the next saga's younger X-Men team. But she could also be playing someone from the multiverse, Rachel Summers, the daughter of Scott and Jean Grey. Maybe Rachel was sent into this reality so she could hide from Doctor Doom. Now, there are rumors that Sadie Sink is appearing in Doomsday and Secret Wars, and if she is the Phoenix, this would explain why Tom P. Jensen isn't in the movie. However, one thing that could happen. Exactly. Now, maybe it's just too convoluted to take this street-level Spider-Man movie and then add in this dash of the multiverse, but it would make this film a direct setup to Avengers Doomsday, which Sony would love because it would be a huge boost to ticket sales. But what do you guys think? Who is Sadie Sink playing? Do you think the X-Men timeline is the original timeline, and is this all the X-Men's fault? You can let me know what you think down in the comments below, or you can find me on Substack at the link below, or you can let us know on our Free to Join Discord server. If it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Arias. Dr. Doom is coming to Wakanda, and I think his visit is going to have huge repercussions for Black Panther 3 and the future of Wakanda. Welcome back to Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Arias, and let's talk about this newest teaser for Avengers Doomsday. Now, like the other teasers, it's mainly just there to reveal characters. Sure, M'Baku meets the Thing, and then we'll have Talokan. But this trailer got me thinking, what could possibly bring Talokan and Wakanda into the sights of Doctor Doom? And I know the multiverse is at stake here, but I think there's got to be something more personal. Doom wants their vibranium, because it is a key part of his plan. So let's go over what we know and what we don't know, and this won't take long because we don't know much. Yeah, I know stuff about her. So we can presume that Doctor Doom is a variant of Tony Stark from another universe, and his origin is tied to X-Men Endgame. Tony Stark is a person who wants to do good, but his need for control causes lapses in judgment.
I see a suit of armor from our world.
Whether it impacted our precious or not.
So this is a version of Tony Stark that broke bad, where all of his worst impulses are being indulged. Now, that's important to remember for later on. We also know that he sought out Franklin Richard, the adorable toddler with godlike powers. And this also has led us to theorize that Doom is collecting special children with godlike abilities. Thor's daughter Love, Franklin, Cyclops' daughter Rachel, maybe Steve's kid for some reason. And on our live stream, we pointed out that these kids are not supposed to exist. Like they are emergencies in the time stream. Like how Steve's kid was created because he time traveled and broke the rules. And based on what Shuri says in the trailer,
I've lost everyone that matters to me.
He thought that maybe Doom took T'Challa Jr. And all of this could be true. Doom could want to use the kid's powers to recreate the universe. But there's also a really simple answer that we've been overlooking. This version of Doom is Tony Stark. And remember how he describes himself. Tony is a tinkerer. He thinks that building things will solve problems. So what problem are you talking about? Well, the multiverse is a chaotic mess. Like in the show Loki, we learned that the multiverse used to be one cohesive timeline called the Sacred Timeline, which was controlled by He Who Remains and overseen by the TVA. And the TVA created the Sacred Timeline with something called a multiversal loom. And that loom somehow refines raw time into the timeline. Now, in Loki Season 2, the TVA is trying to allow the multiverse to expand, but it keeps breaking the loom and killing everyone. So Loki decides to become a living loom, creating a great multiversal tree that can grow and expand into infinity. That's nice. Well, while it sounds nice on paper, it actually caused an infinite amount of probabilities for disaster. In the multiverse saga, it seems like an event threatens or destroys an entire universe every few months. Now, this tree is rotting with incursions.
Incursion purge, and the boundary between two universes erodes.
Tony Stark provide a mess. He likes order. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, 2026 isn't just the year for Avengers Doomsday. This year is absolutely stacked with movies and TV shows. And I'm excited about all of this, but there's also a lot of pressure on us to cover everything. I used to be terrible at handling this kind of pressure. I had massive anxiety and stress attacks because I always felt like this weight was pressing down on me. So in 2026, I don't want this job to feel like work. I want it to be fun. Now I actually have the tools to deal with that anxiety and fear because I got therapy. Therapy helped me to realize that I was just reacting to everything that was happening to me without understanding the reasons why I was reacting. So now that I've been able to unpack the reasons for my anxiety, I feel lighter, like we're about to start fresh and have our best year ever. And this is all thanks to BetterHelp, the sponsor of this video. BetterHelp understands that we all carry our personal heavy weights around with us, be it depression, anxiety, grief, stress, or fear. BetterHelp doesn't just give you access to therapy, it helps you start therapy with confidence. So to get started, you fill out a questionnaire where you share your goals and what you're looking for. And then BetterHelp uses those insights to connect you with a qualified, licensed therapist who fits your needs. And if the match isn't right, you can switch therapists at any time at no extra cost. You can have sessions by video, phone, or live chat, whatever feels most comfortable and fits your schedule. 72% of BetterHelp clients report a reduction in symptoms within 12 weeks. BetterHelp has made a huge difference in my life. So to get started today, click the link in the description and go to BetterHelp.com/ScreenCrush for 10% off your first month. And you can let BetterHelp support you in feeling lighter in 2026. Again, that's BetterHelp.com/ScreenCrush for 10% off your first month. You won't regret it. It worked for me. Now back to what I was saying. So, like I said, Doom is a tinkerer, and he wants this chaotic multiverse to have order. And Dr. Doom is a fascist madman who believes that only he can fix it. Doom must be in control because nobody else can be trusted with this great responsibility. Maybe he should be taking the advice of a friend. So Dr. Doom wants to create his own version of the multiverse alone, and I think we've already seen this machine. See, these trailers are not the first peek we've had of Avengers Doomsday. Marvel released a light show to promote the film, and it is filled with clues. Now, a lot of the light show is pretty generic stuff. Dr. Doom on a throne, which is like pretty much the definitive image of Doom. But we also see him gather the multiversal shards from What If and collect them into his fist. So this is telling us that, just like in the comics, Doom's plan is to take this messy multiverse and coalesce it into something small that can be controlled. In comics, this was Battleworld. In the movies, I think Doom's original intention will be to create a perfect, harmonious universe. But then the heroes will interfere and Battleworld will be created instead in an equal setting for Secret War. But the light show also revealed two interesting pieces. One is the Citadel. Now, in our breakdown video, we theorize that this Citadel will be the new Castle Doom that will replace the Palace of He Who Remains. So from this place at the end of time, Doom will remake the multiverse. But the Citadel isn't the Doom universe. This is an astrolabe. You probably recognize it from the intro to the throne. So this is a 2,000-year-old device built to essentially map the sky. Scientists and astronomers were using the latitude and longitude at the time and determining the position of heavenly bodies in the sky. It was basically an analog computer used by everyone, from navigators to astronomers, to measure the rotation of the stars. In other words, an astrolabe is a model of the universe. And this is also full circle. Remember, when Tony Stark invented time travel, he did it with an inverted Mobius strip, which looks like the Infinity Sign. So it's fitting this culminated the Infinity Saga. So of course, a new version of Tony Stark can design a device that will bring it into the Multiverse Saga as well. There has to have been a astrolabe, and that's the thing. To build it, he needs vibranium. And this is where I have to explain a huge crossover event from the comics, 2010's Doom War. In this arc, Doom's tired of messing around, and he launches his plan to take over the world. But to do this, he wants all of vibranium in Wakanda. See, Doom is also a master sorcerer, and he believes that he can imbue vibranium with magical properties that will make him unstoppable. And I think that this is also how vibranium works in the MCU. It is imbued with magical or cosmic energy. Now, we know the meteor comes from space. And by the way, I think I know where it comes from, and that's going to be important for later. And then the vibranium seeps into the heart-shaped herb, which allows people to visit an afterlife and talk with the dead. All this sounds very magical to me, so I'm going to assume the vibranium does have magical properties. So then Doom overthrows Wakanda from within by supporting an isolationist faction called the Shuri. Then he kicks T'Challa's ass in a fight to where he's near death. And this is when Shuri becomes Black Panther. She protects Wakanda while her brother is gone, just like now in the MCU. And all this works. Doom's faction takes over the country, and then he captures T'Challa's queen and uses her form. T'Challa then gives Doom a massive stash of vibranium, like when Hans Gruber gets the Barabons in Die Hard. So then Doom uses the vibranium to create a worldwide army of invincible Doom bots. Now, obviously, in Doomsday, he's going to have bigger plans for it than just building more robots. Dr. Doom doesn't want to conquer the world or the universe, he wants to conquer every universe. And the Astrolabe will not even be the first magical device we've seen in the MCU. The Eye of Agamotto actually moves like an Astrolabe. There's also Doctor Strange's cloak, Susan Ban's Sidorak, and the Cauldron of the Cosmos. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that Doom wants to build a magic device. By the way, if you're interested in your own piece of Doom magic, we have made some for you at our merch store. We have this brand new Doomsday Celebration shirt with Castle Doom, and hot off the printers, we have our return shirts with 11 will return at Avengers Doomsday, somehow Palpatine will return at Avengers Doomsday, and of course, your mom will return at Avengers Doomsday. Links for these are below. Thanks for helping us out and becoming a member.
Yeah, but I don't get it. I thought vibranium was a real strong metal.
No, not at all. So vibranium has all sorts of uses and properties, like Paul said.
Sun into their guns. It powers this.
But the question is, why? Why does this metal have all of these uses? How does this metal help people to communicate with the afterlife or create a race of people who can breathe underwater? Somehow vibranium's not just a strong metal, but it has the power to create new life. Well, I'm about to explain it, and when I do, I think you'll understand why Dr. Doom wants this metal. You ready?
Hold on to your butts.
Vibranium is a cosmic substance. It comes from 2 meteors that hit Earth millions of years ago.
Hey, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, because what else hit the Earth millions of years ago? Good one to know. The celestial seed. Remember, in the Eternals, it was revealed that the Celestials implanted Earth with a baby celestial millions of years ago. Now, this is not actually taken from the main universe of Marvel Comics. This was adapted from an alternate universe called Earth X. And the premise of that book is that the Celestials impregnated the world and then gave humanity these special genes that allowed us to develop superpowers. That way, Earth could act like antibodies to protect their baby from the planet Eater Galactus. But in the comics, the Celestial baby was surrounded by a special protective coating, vibranium. The vibranium came from the Celestials as a kind of amniotic fluid. That's the fluid that surrounds a baby in a uterus. So here's the thing though, amniotic fluid is loaded with stem cells. These are master cells that can basically become anything the body needs. So let's apply that to the MCU. Vibranium essentially has the power of the Celestials to create life. That's why Namor could use it to adapt the cells in the human body so people can breathe underwater. The Celestials are able to create stars and galaxies, maybe even the entire universe. And so vibranium is a substance that is imbued with the ability to create life and cheat death. And in the comics, Dr. Doom's always trying to do one thing, trying to steal power and take it for himself. Hell, that's what Secret Wars is about. He steals the power of the Beyonder in both versions of the story. And Doom knows that he can never defeat a Celestial one-on-one and take their power, so instead, he's coming after Celestial stem cells, vibranium. So, go back to the trailer. We asked why would the Fantastic Four go to Wakanda? It could be because it's the most advanced nation on Earth, so of course that's where they would go. Or maybe they track down Dr. Doom's signal to Wakanda. They're after him because he kidnapped Franklin. Or maybe Doom is planning an all-out assault on Wakanda to take all the vibranium from the mound. Maybe he already launched the attack on Talokan, which is why Namor has traveled to Wakanda in the trailer. So regardless of how this happens, we think that Doom is successful. He strip mines the mountain of vibranium and he's got enough to build his device. So imagine he builds a device out of vibranium, this Astrolabe, and he takes it to the end of time and space. He would construct it in the Citadel, and then it's powered by the cosmic energy of the kids that we keep talking about. Franklin Richards, Rachel Summers, Love.
Gary Sinise, maybe.
No, not Gary. Why would you bring up Gary Sinise?
I don't know. I hear people talking about Gary Sinise sometimes.
No, so Doom takes these superpowered kids and then